Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Finance Podcast. My name is Paul Ellis, and I'm your host for these programs about developments in this fast-growing industry. Craig Coulter has 12 years of experience with EY, delivering strategy and advisory services to clients large and small, with a focus on the environment and sustainability. He is passionate about building businesses, organizations, and teams that incorporate sustainability to make it business as usual. Craig is currently responsible for sustainability services and strategies in the advanced manufacturing and mobility sectors, paying special attention to decarbonization in manufacturing, sustainability in supply chains, and procurement compliance. Craig excels at combining technical know-how with go-to-market strategic vision. Hello, Craig, and welcome to the Sustainable Finance Podcast.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning. Look forward to this conversation. Will and I were talking about your industry before we got on the call today, and there's some really curious things going on that we want to find out more about for our listeners. And let's just jump right in there. EY's clients in advanced manufacturing and mobility need to adopt digital technologies to take important steps toward sustainability. So how does your team support that process?
I really appreciate that, Paul. So maybe just to take a step back, we talk about, digital technology. We've been at digital transformation for quite a while, right? We talk about Industry 4.0 and how that's progressing. I think in looking at the big picture, COVID certainly had a major impact. I think only now, many of our clients are really starting to go back and sort of hit their stride, right? But when we put sort of a sustainability lens on that, transition, we've got some challenges. I just a couple data points to sort of level set there. I think, most just digital overall, most of our clients are still not quite there yet, in terms of how they can, really elevate and accelerate around digital. And most of that is due to organizational change. That is the number one challenge that they have. And then specific to sustainability, just a recent survey that I took a look at, almost 50% of our clients, they are talking about how sustainability is one of the most important drivers in terms of their supply chain and manufacturing. But only about 15% of them are really addressing that as they look at manufacturing globally, right? So what does that mean, right? You basically have manufacturing, which is a challenge, right? It's a challenging industry. You have digital transformation, which is also, it's been an ongoing issue, a huge opportunity, but also challenge. And then as we both know, sustainability is yet another major topic that you got to try to weave together there. So you bring all that together, I think, going back to your question, how does EY help clients? Really, I think we want to be that trusted third party, that kind of helps our clients bring all of that together, right? And be the ones that can work through them on a number of different ways that we can, help them realize the outcomes that they're looking for. Specifically, I like to think about it in terms of just a very simple metric of, do you want to play the game? Do you want to change the game? Or do you want to win the game, right? And where do our clients want to be? So how can we meet them at sort of their expectations? And so that could be something as relatively simple. It's hard to say it's simple, but getting iPads on the factory floor, right, and having data available to that. Or it could be something that's transformative, a new product, a new business line, business models, and then really that whole transformation. So it's mainly about meeting them where they're at, and then driving those sustainable outcomes.
Okay. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any expectations about when that 15% that is actually implementing might get to the 50% that is aware of what needs to be done now, and where are that 50% going to go from where they are today?
Sure. Well, I think, right as we speak right now, right, one of the major drivers is, as we both know, is reporting compliance obligations, right? We're seeing CSRD, we're seeing the California legislation, we see the SEC, now we know that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, legal challenges there, but that is happening now. So in my mind, that's going to be a major driver over the next 2 to 4 years. And that's really our opportunity, our EY's opportunity to work with our clients on how do you take digital transformation and respond to those needs, right? So I think that driver, my desire would see you're going to see greater visibility and recognition as companies go through that basically compliance and regulatory reporting that they're going to have to do.
Okay, good. Now let's talk about one of the big opportunities that everybody is focusing on now, artificial intelligence. It's the hot topic in digital transformation these days. And the two things that I read and hear the most about AI are the time it saves in achieving all sustainable business transition goals and the amount of energy it consumes in the process. What's your experience of the role it plays for better or worse at this point?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And as you said, you can't go anywhere without hearing about AI these days, right? So, but just again, for me, I think that the context is important. So when we talk about AI in general, I would say when we talk about digital manufacturing, it's been around for we're talking about digital twins, machine learning, predictive maintenance. That is not necessarily new as we see it in the media right now. I think most of the media is around what we would call Gen AI, right? And the huge opportunities there, right? So when I look at that, it's been ongoing. It's certainly having a major impact, and it's only going to continue to accelerate. But I think that the Gen AI, that is still moving forward, and the opportunities are huge, into what the potential impacts. But overall, the digital, it's a part of that nomenclature around digital manufacturing. As far as the impact, that it's having on the ground, you look at the footprints that are out there. Yes, they're only going to grow, and I think that goes back to where EY, we want to be that trusted advisor to help clients recognize that, as they're putting yet another data center on the ground, right? As they're leveraging, the cloud more substantially. What are those potential impacts that, again, are going to go back to what are you going to report and how that's going to impact your sustainability goals?
Okay. So we're at a point now where the role that AI is playing, especially in areas like advanced manufacturing and mobility transitions, may be accelerating to the point where it's disrupting company business models. Is that happening with any of your clients?
It is. I think overall, as I mentioned, we see the acceleration, and especially coming out of COVID, around some of what I would say the more traditional AI capabilities, right? And I continue to see that. And so that is certainly having an impact. Those of our clients that are really taking advantage of that and thinking about new business models in that context are really at an advantage. If we think about, what we see in the press, especially around the Gen AI, I go back to, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that many manufacturers, repeatedly talk about and want to do better with is how they connect with their customers, right? Oftentimes many manufacturers don't have visibility, to who their customers are, how their products are being used, and having that feedback. This is where I see Gen AI as having, potentially a tremendous impact, where they can bring Gen AI and using those large language models, bring their clients closer to them, and working through that can really be game changing. And we're starting to see some of that as we move forward.
Okay. Now let's go back to two types of AI, some of the older forms of AI that you've already mentioned, and that's machine learning and digital twins. As I understand it, in mobility, digital twins have been a part of the racing industry for a couple of decades already. And things like machine learning have been around for a while, but it's only recently that, at least in the world of finance, those terms have been used on a regular daily basis. Can you explain each of them a little bit better for our clients, a little more?
Yeah. So if we go back and think about, we'll start with digital twins. I mean,
Okay.
it basically is just you described. You basically try to construct, through software,
Mm.
a machine replica of whether, like you mentioned, a racing vehicle, or what I'm more familiar, say a facility, right? In terms of how it operates, and really it can be used in a variety of ways. We, the innovation hub that's sitting behind me, we have a digital twin of the entire building for energy management. Right. So you can go in, you can see a very specific visual of where there are potentially gaps in terms of energy efficiency, what's cold, what's hot. And then getting to your other question about machine learning, it uses algorithms and sort of predictive, algorithms to then make those changes ahead of time to account and save efficiency or save money and energy, right? So that's just one example, but you can have digital twins, in manufacturing, for example, of a whole facility, right? And look at opportunities where there may be holdups or slowdowns. You take all that data, again, and you can have algorithms to help improve that, whether that's ordering, you find a log jam because you don't have enough of a particular, component. Maybe it's a labor issue. You don't have people on the ground that are able to move fast enough. That's really what the digital twin's capability. And so that digital twin and machine learning go hand in hand as to how you can do that. So really it's the world is your oyster, in terms of where you want to do that, in terms of what the capabilities are. But as always, what are the outcomes that you're looking for? Are they sustainable? And does that translate into, the business value that you're looking for?
Okay. Now, as you're suggesting, and as you're saying, on a day-to-day basis, you work with companies that are really in the midst of these very important transitions that ultimately will be very beneficial, not only from a sustainability point of view, but economically. What are some of the ways that you help your clients understand the importance of incorporating sustainability into their company and their economic sector?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. I'll go back to our earlier, comments about the sustainability reporting. I think immediately right now, that's what has the most recognition. And I see that, moving forward, for 3 to 5 years. So double clicking on that, there's a regulated requirement that they're facing, right? That's oftentimes falling under the CFO or controller that is putting teams together to say, how are we going to meet these regulated reporting requirements, right? In addition to that, you typically, most of our clients, and this is across all industries, have set, fairly strong sustainability goals, right? But I will say, when you break that down into, say, a particular business unit, into facilities, connecting those dots, we still have a long ways to go, right? So really that's probably the most immediate example that's out there is you have goals, you have reporting requirements, and EY is helping them saying, okay, you need data, right? We know you're doing this digital product. We helped you do this, or there's an opportunity to greenfield this facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you layering in those sustainability reporting requirements? Because also when you do that, you're going to create more efficiencies and you're going to identify some more opportunities. So that's just one example of how we do that, but it really spans the spectrum, in terms of all the capabilities have is how we can be that trusted advisor to realize their business goals.
Listen, Craig, I'm going to give you a shameless plug from one of our previous episodes. I spoke a couple of weeks ago. We dropped an episode where our guest was Allison Taylor, who's a clinical professor at NYU Business School, and we were talking about her new book, the title of which is Higher Ground. And it's a really a very complete focus on today's experience of what leaders of companies and leaders within companies need to focus on in order to maximize their own productivity, but also to get the best out of all the people that they work with. I highly recommend it. It's higher ground, and it's available on Amazon. So shameless plug time today.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah. So far, in your experience, what opportunities does sustainability create for your clients in manufacturing?
Yeah. Um, it's endless in many ways, but I'll give two specific examples where
Sure.
I think that's where companies focus. And again, it's a consistent theme here. One is efficiencies, right? You look at what sustainability is, the end goal, what we want. We want less in many respects, right? And efficiencies driving through digital manufacturing. That's a targeted outcome that we all see. It saves money. It's oftentimes saves energy. So whether that is adding sensors to machines, in a facility or in the field, and be able to do predictive maintenance so that there is opportunities to get out ahead of, downtime, fixing, repairing, again, that's just a simple but very powerful example of how we can drive efficiencies, and that would, reduce costs and be more sustainable. More broadly, I think, and this is where we want to challenge our clients and see, and I go back to that, are you going to play? Are you going to, win? Or are you going to change? We want to see our clients try to change the game, right? And that means new products and new sustainable product opportunities that are changing the market, right? And we've worked with some clients to do that. That is driven a lot by what the market forces out there. So we all have to respond to what the opportunities are. But this is where I think we'll see more and more companies that get their digital house in order and are ready to execute. They'll start to take more risks there. And that's where the opportunities that can really be game changing for our clients. So that's where you can tell. I love spending time on that, maybe more so than the compliance reporting that we all know that we need to do. But that's what's really going to make an impact. And that's where I like to spend my time.
We've been talking about how you help your clients out, but I'm sure EY is going through its own internal transformation related to all of these new technologies and approaches to the work. Please share a couple of examples of how EY's ample resources allow your firm to develop actionable sustainability strategies for each client's specific needs.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Again, taking a step back, I like to talk about we talk about sustainability. Whether it's sustainable strategy, it's sustainable supply chains and manufacturing, it's sustainable reporting. At the end of the day, sustainability is an adjective. It's not a noun, right? So we're always doing strategy work. We're always doing supply chain and manufacturing. We're always doing reporting. So we have a great number of fantastic individuals that work with our clients on those topics every day. What the challenge has been for EY is how do we make sure that we integrate sustainability principles and build that awareness within EY for our 400,000 professionals to drive the outcomes we're all looking for. So that's our challenge is how do we make sure that our whole workforce and those that work with our clients are informed, right? The other thing I would say to that is, despite all of EY's capabilities, we cannot deliver to our clients alone. We have to work with partners and alliances. And, one example that I would give is particularly around the IT and infrastructure, and just one example is we have relationships with Microsoft, for example, and then another partner called AspenTech. So AspenTech really sits in the what I would call heavy industries and infrastructure. So think, chemicals, oil and gas, power and utilities. They do a fantastic job of working with clients to operationalize their businesses, right? And in particular, they have great data, so with them and with Microsoft, we're building out, platforms that focuses on energy management, cost optimization, and in EY's case, I know it will sound a little strange, but we're bringing in our tax capabilities in this case, right? Because as clients are thinking about where they're going to invest, where they're going to make things more efficient, whether it's a facility or across, their manufacturing portfolio, we can give them visibility in where they can make those decisions. And that's where you pull tax in, because what are the IRA investments that might be available there? Where are the tax, incentives that might be available? So we like to bring that to better, but we can't do that alone, right? We have to do that with our partners to make that, best for our clients.
Craig, I'm really glad that you mentioned those examples, because they're great examples of collaborative effort between very large companies with tremendous resources available to them. And we don't see many stories in the media about that kind of cooperation. So I'm really glad that we spoke about that today. Craig, where online can followers of the Sustainable Finance podcast learn more about EY's role in supporting the sustainability transition of their clients in advanced manufacturing and mobility? And how can they contact you with questions about the topics that we discussed in today's episode?
No, I really appreciate it. You can always go to ey.com and search for sustainability, and you can see a great number of assets and thought leadership that we have there. We'll also send a link to the EY non-AMSPERC Innovation Hub, which is behind me, where we work with a lot of our clients in advanced manufacturing mobility, and certainly share my email address. Would be happy to hear from any people listening and watching today about how they can love to follow up with them.
Great. And I believe you're going to send us some links to studies or white papers or research that EY has done as well. And we really appreciate that, so that our followers can do more homework on their own, if you will. Listen, thanks again to you, Craig Coulter, EY Sustainability Leader for Advanced Manufacturing and Mobility. And followers of the Sustainable Finance podcast can join me again next week for another episode. I'm Paul Ellis, and this is the Sustainable Finance Podcast, and we're now available on YouTube. Join us.